One of my favorites is the letter at the end in which a Jewish trader recommends his Muslim colleague to another Jew. You must forget everything that you thought you knew about Egyptian, Greek, and Roman. Instead, they're all together in the same place. And this is the milieu very much in which Judaism developed and Christianity emerged in Egypt. However, none of them communicate religious identity. Instead, we do not know if they belonged to Jews, Christians, or Muslims. They're all Egyptian.
We're here at the British Museum looking around their latest exhibition, Egypt, Faith After The Pharaohs.
The exhibition covers 1,200 years of history when we see two major transformations, first to a majority Christian population by the 5th century, and then to a majority Muslim population by the 10th century, or within the course of the 10th century.
What would you say your favourite item is in the exhibition?
That's very difficult to say, but I love the curtains that are behind you. They are astonishing for their inclusion not only of Christian imagery, as we would expect with the cross in the middle, but also classical imagery. So we have our little putti, our little erotes, that is these chubby babies personifying love, which belong very much to the classical tradition. Our winged victory figures from the Roman tradition, however, they're holding a victory wreath, but it's enclosing a cross. And it's these combinations of cultural markers which I find so wonderful, and these being extraordinarily well preserved. In addition to objects related to state religion and religious practice as part of a community, we have several objects on display which are for the individual, that is, for the individual to control aspects of their natural, supernatural, and social worlds. This is sometimes termed magic. This section of a papyrus roll, actually the complete papyrus is over 5 meters in length. It's split between collections here at the British Museum and Leiden. This is just one of several sections, but here we see several deities evoked, including the great god of Moses. So right alongside our ancient Egyptian deities, the great god of Moses is evoked in order to effect a spell for divination. So have some wonderful combinations of pagan, that is polytheist, images together with Jewish or perhaps Christian. For example, a magical gem, where on one side we see the archangel Gabriel, and he's labeled, and on the other side, the ancient Egyptian god Anubis.
Okay.
That in the 4th century, a newly appointed bishop went to Philae in order to convert the population, but he did not betray that he was a Christian when he arrived. When he arrived, he went to the temple and asked to make a sacrifice to God. When he was admitted to the temple in order to sacrifice, he in fact took the falcon in which the deity was believed to be embodied, cut its head off, and threw it in the fire, thus sacrificing effectively to his god. According to the codex, everyone thereafter converted on the island, but in fact from archaeological evidence we know that it was actually a couple of hundred years before the population of the island in fact became Christian. When it did, several temple complexes on the island were converted to a new purpose when churches were installed within them. Now, the monuments of ancient Egypt did not go away. They stood everywhere around temples and tombs throughout Egypt. And in addition to adapting and reusing standing temple complexes and other Egyptian monuments, they were also recycled. On one side, this is a temple relief. We have Horus of Bekdet portrayed, and Egyptian hieroglyph. On the other, as we'll see, it's been recarved as a funerary stela for a man named Besa. This is a Christian man, a monk, and this piece of stone has been reused to commemorate him in death. So here we have a section of a funerary monument, the beginning of an inscription in Arabic that reads in this direction. It belonged to an opulent funerary monument, probably in Cairo. It begins with the Basmalah, that is the name for the phrase, "In the name of God, the merciful and compassionate," and it's here in the British Museum collection. Other sections of the inscription from the same monument today are in many collections, including Berlin. Not long after this was originally carved, it was reused. On the reverse, it was carved as a funerary stela, a grave stela, for a man, not even decades after the original monument was built. Under the Fatimid Empire, Egypt flourished. Christian and Jewish communities as well were supported by the booming economy, and we have a boom in the production of Coptic manuscripts. Here to my left is a copy of the life of Makarios, and here in the frontispiece we see Makarios on horseback. He is spearing someone beneath him, and this is imagery straight out of Roman imperial triumphal imagery. However, the person that he's spearing is the Emperor Julian, the so-called apostate, who in his brief reign in 361 to 363 tried to revive traditional cults at the expense of Christianity. So here he is, having been toppled from his horse and now speared by a Christian saint, Saint Makarios. The last part of the medieval section in this exhibition deals with the Cairo Genizah. Now, a Genizah is a storeroom, and according to tradition, anything that might have the name of God written on it, or even by extension, anything with the sacred text, that is Hebrew, or in time, Aramaic, should not be thrown away, but should be ritually buried. For some reason, the Cairo Genizah was never disposed of, and this is an astonishing collection, which gives real insight into the relations between Jews and Muslims, and also Jews and Christians, in especially the 11th to 13th century. Now, the Genizah contains material from as early as the 8th century right up until the 19th century, when it was identified, but its texts from the 12th to 13th century give us extraordinary insight into the Jewish community. And here we see people writing, especially in Arabic and Hebrew, but also Judeo-Arabic. Judeo-Arabic being Arabic, but written in Hebrew script. In addition to these languages, we find Aramaic, Coptic, Latin, Greek, just about anything that you can think of that was circulating at this time. And the documents show us that this community had extraordinary connections reaching from the Atlantic coast all the way to India and even beyond. Among the documents, we have the Archive of Maimonides, the great Jewish scholar who compiled his Mishnah Torah in Cairo at this time. We have a draft of the Mishnah written in his own hand, and that's the first document here. In addition to this, evidence of a great man, we have the everyday transactions of individuals, traders, school children writing their school texts. One of my favorites is the letter at the end in which a Jewish trader recommends his Muslim colleague to another Jew. The exhibition ends with 3 children's tunics. And unlike most of the material culture shown in this exhibition, all 3 of them were created after the Arab conquest of Egypt. However, none of them communicate religious identity. Instead, we do not know if they belonged to Jews, Christians, or Muslims. They're all Egyptian.